Welcome back to Scinary Information Nexus, your podcast of CERN.
Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. As always, I am joined by Joseph Hamilton, one of our SOC managers, Brazos Wortham, our Director of Strategic Initiatives. And this week, because we've got Mario on assignment,
He's
that's what
out
we're
in the
saying.
Field. Yeah,
he's out in the field. We have brought both their bosses in, or their boss of both of them, Ty Valdis, who is our Director of Cybersecurity Operations. Welcome, Ty.
Hello.
And by the way, you are Joe's boss as well.
Well, yes.
Yes.
I was about to say
that was the both.
There's not two of me. There is only one.
Yeah, but you've got two SOC managers.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Brazos only has one of me. So
That's fair.
yeah, the Brazos tells me what to do.
The world is not ready for two of us.
No, I agree. I agree. So welcome back, everyone, to another fun-filled episode of the podcast. And I got a question for you guys. Can you guys tell that this week it's DEF CON in Vegas?
There's been a bunch of vulnerabilities released.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Everyone's getting prepped.
Yeah.
There's nothing that says DEF CON like a new emergency CISA notification going out about Microsoft Exchange.
Right.
About I think that vulnerability was released in 2020, in April.
Mm-hmm.
But
yes,
something happened between now and then, and like CISA's like losing their shit over it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't it something about the proof of concept being released or something?
I don't remember if it was proof of concept or if there was at least one event of it in the wild. It was something like that. But the thing about it is like you have to have been in the network already, gotten access to their Exchange server, and have admin privileges on their Exchange server. And then you can willy-nilly go over to the Microsoft 365 cloud platform. I think it's a little bit of a far-fetched chain of attack. I mean, they're already in your network. They already have admin privileges.
Yeah.
Typically, that's domain admin. I don't really care about your cloud at that point. I'm going to get everything in the network.
Right.
But they're freaking out about it. They've told everyone that in the government that they control and have auspices over to make sure everything is patched by Monday of next week, I believe. So,
Yeah, that's in the federal. Yeah, the federal government is telling the federal agencies to patch by Monday.
Right.
What does that say about the government networks? If you have to have
that's one of the things. Like CISA's freaking out over this
because
thing, right?
the update for this came out in April. Because that did happen.
Yeah.
Microsoft made a patch for this already.
Right.
And CISA's having to come back and go, hey, so we need that. And it needs to be done by next week because you guys have had 4 months.
Well, I mean, again, is DEF CON this week and Black Hat's next week?
No, I think Black Hat has already happened.
Already happened. Here's another thing that I don't understand. Why in the hell why are you going to have a hacker conference in the middle of the desert in freaking August?
I mean, maybe get rid of a couple of them due to heat stroke or something. I don't know.
Well,
Only the fittest survive.
Someone's going to hack so good someday that they will finally change the weather in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And at that point, we will know who the chosen one is.
So I've never been to DEF CON or Black Hat. I've been to a B-Sides, and I've been to little hacker fest things, but nothing on the scale of DEF CON or Black Hat. So I can understand why they want it in Vegas because that's the venue to be, right? You want to have a bunch of hackers in and around casinos. Sure, why not? Ask MGM how that worked out for them.
Right.
But yeah, I guess.
Well, wasn't it one of the hotels actually had to tell them not to come back next year because they kept on getting their Wi-Fi hacked because everyone would just hack their Wi-Fi?
Man, I've heard some horror stories about stuff like that. So I can get in and around hacking, right? I'm not a hacker, per se. I know basic attacks and I know the theory behind a lot of attacks, but I'm not the practitioner guy. Like I'm not the expert on that. And I remember I was thinking about going a few years ago, and Mr. LaForce told me, "Leave your cell phone at home." I'm like, oh, come on, man. That can't be. No, do
Oh
it.
no, 100%.
Yeah,
Even-
leave your cell phone.
electronics.
Yeah, leave your cell phone at home.
Don't even
So-
take your car to DEF CON. Like, don't do that.
Especially not if it's a Tesla.
Oh yeah, especially if it's a Tesla. But
Oh,
just
yeah,
in general, don't
and
take
right now, yeah.
anything. Yeah. Anything you remotely value does not come with you to DEF CON.
Yeah. Well, I've been to Vegas a handful of times, but it's always been for debauchery. So
Like the time that you won a Rolex. And
hey, why we got to bring up old shit?
So we're going back to the gambling of the venture capitalist
Hey,
episode.
yeah. All right.
Isn't this supposed to be about ethics?
Yes. Moving right along. Good segue.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ty. Appreciate that. Appreciate the bell out. And Brazos, you and I will have a conversation later about what's appropriate to share with our audience.
That's what I'm here for, sir.
Yes. All right. So another housekeeping item on August 29th, our friend and colleague Jason Phillips will be here to talk about hacking. He is a pen tester, works for a company that does pen testing. So it's always good to have him in the house to discuss, all things hacking. But today, I want to preface this episode with kind of a story, right? Say you are at home minding your own business, right? And somebody breaks into your house and makes off with everything that you own. But you're hiding in the house. So you get up and you follow them because you want to know where they're going, right? So you can get your stuff back. Well, you follow them to their house. And you think you know where they live, right? So what do you can't get your stuff back, but you set fire to the house. You just torch the house.
Oh, okay. A little bit of an escalation there.
Well, hey, if I can't have my stuff, nobody's going to have my stuff, and I'm going to make it twice as hard for you. But the problem is, most robbers, they live with their mothers. So you just burn down somebody's mother's house. That's the conundrum that we're faced with today is offensive cybersecurity, hacking back, as it were, and the legality and the ethical considerations around hacking back. Now, before we really get into the meat and potatoes of this, we all around this table have seen a lot of attacks, right?
Yeah.
We've actually even seen config files, artifacts that are left over after the attack that says, hey, here's the IP address, here's the protocol, here's the key.
Password. Yeah.
Well, here's the key, the SSH key or whatever on that. So we've seen that in the attacks. So I want to open this up to you guys and talk about, and before we get into the legality of it, I want to state equivocally, we are not attorneys, and we do not provide legal advice.
We don't even really know the full extent of the law.
We also don't condone burning down your attacker's mother's house.
Yeah. By the way, where did you get the statistic that most robbers live in their mother's house?
I made it
the
up.
one that confused me.
I made it up.
Oh,
mean,
Richard's first law.
Yes.
This is the same person that said something about running away from bees while building IKEA furniture.
Yeah.
What?
That was last episode.
Okay.
Look, I'm trying to set the stage for hypotheticals.
Look, I do actually think that there's one part in it that is really apropos to the consequences of offensive security, and that is the fact that you're setting fire to the house.
Yeah.
What houses are around it? Who lives in the house?
Yeah.
What stuff is in the house? Obviously, it's an escalation.
Collateral damage.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is something that is a consideration whenever you're looking at offensive security in the cybersecurity world. Whenever you're taking down that server, who else does it affect? How does it affect them? There's a lot of other ramifications whenever you're looking at those kinds. And what's more is whenever you're looking at within a criminal context, you went and set fire to that person's house. Well, now legally the law enforcement has to go after you for arson, as opposed to the person who stole your stuff, who now we don't have any evidence of all the stuff that was stolen because it all got burned down in the fire.
Well,
That's that whole
hey,
two wrongs don't make a right thing.
Vigilante justice. You can't be Batman.
Says
So
who?
You can't be Batman.
That is weirdly targeted.
Where's my meme?
Well, and specifically regarding like hackbacks, and one thing that I do want to mention here is that to define specifically offensive security and separate these two, offensive security and hackbacks, because when you say offensive security, that does not mean hackbacks in the traditional sense. Like if you go and walk up to a cybersecurity professional and you tell them, or you start a conversation regarding offensive security, the thing that's going to go into their head is red teaming and pen testing and vulnerability scanning. The idea of adversarial simulations against networks. Hackbacks are the retribution, if you will, of a cyber attack. Like someone taking, I got hit with ransomware, I'm going to go take the IOCs and go attack my adversary that just attacked me.
I believe typically in industry parlance, that's more akin to cyber ops.
Yeah.
So anything under that umbrella, which can be done legitimately, oftentimes through government auspices or law enforcement auspices. But cyber ops is kind of the industry term that typically falls underneath that, as opposed to offensive security, like you said, which is typically.
Now, and I've got a question specifically regarding the when you're talking about the morality or of this situation. Are we referring to private entities, or are we referring to government and law enforcement?
Not government. Not government, because government's a whole different ball of wax. What I'm referring to as hacking back or offensive cybersecurity is you're a company that has been hacked or getting hacked, but you've got some really cool IT nerds that figure out where the CNC is, where the C2 servers are, and they start burning those things to the ground, right? And so the ethics and morality and the legality surrounding that.
Okay. Yeah. And the reason, because I in my personal opinion, right, those two are very important distinctions to make. Because whenever you are talking about private entities taking it upon themselves to go and basically what you were saying, vigilantism, vigilantes, cyber vigilantes. The issue with this is one, collateral damage, as you were mentioning, but I think there's another thing that goes into this is where is how do you tell them to stop, right? Like if they were to go and do something, right? You think of ransomware attacks that target us, right? And that's kind of the same idea in a way.
Yeah.
A little bit different with state-sponsored actors. But when does that vigilante mentality bleed too far? Like whenever they just destroyed a C2 server because it had their data in it, well, that bleeds into, well, now they're ransomwaring organizations, and you get into that collateral damage because then they want payback, right?
Well, and that's definitely, so there's an interesting very thin line between those that are willing to engage in like cyber ops for personal retribution, this kind of vigilante justice, and hacktivism, right? Which hacktivism is a known or categorized proponent of even ransomware, or at least ATPs, the
Advanced Persistent Threats.
Yeah, APTs. Sorry, I always do that.
You've had too much to drink.
No, not yet. I got 2 more to go through.
All right.
And another thing specifically with private entities too that I find is another concern is that operation would largely fall out of the view of regulatory bodies. Who's watching?
Well,
right?
okay. So let's, because y'all have already taken it like gone afield, right? I've got a very, I got my thing here, right? We've got a thing.
You should share
follow.
these outlines before this.
We haven't even gotten into cyber warfare yet, which is what all of this is.
Yeah. So I think we should define what is offensive security. I think you guys hit on it, but what are the methods of offensive security? Are we talking distributed denial of service attacks? Are we talking about hacking back and burning down C2 infrastructure?
Well, so one of the ones that I actually really appreciate.
By the way, can you pass me a?
Yeah, want another one?
Yes.
Yeah.
And who's got the thing?
It's in the middle of the table.
Oh,
as it always is.
Thank you. please continue.
No, one of the ones that I actually really appreciate as a cybersecurity professional is, and there's a number of threat intelligence companies that do this, where they actually take the findings of IOCs from incidents and then use that in order to map the framework of the attacker's network. And then if they can, go in and use an exploit on the attacker's network to sit on the attacker's servers and find out exactly what they're doing. There's a number of threat intelligence people that do this already, that then report to the rest of the cybersecurity community of exactly what to look for, of what their scripts are, of what their hard-coded passwords are, of what IPs they're using. And sometimes they hide exactly how they're doing it for a very long time because they don't want the attacker to know how they got in, and the fact that they're just sitting there. That's more of a, I'm going to get in and I'm going to sit and not burn things down just so I can inform the public and make it less profitable for the attacker.
So, but I mean, that's not really offensive security, is it?
Oh, yeah. No, they're hacking. They're hacking they're not burning it down. It's not full, scorched earth method, but if the attacker were for some reason to think that they could get away with what they had already done and go take this to the authorities, they could say, this person hacked me. Can you go after them and please prosecute them?
Could you imagine Scinary going to the FBI and said, hey, here's a C2 network, here's credentials to get into it. The first question is, how do you know this?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Well, but that's the thing, is they normally share it in forums or put it out there or put out white papers. It's not that they're informing the authorities about it. It's they're putting it out there. And if people ask them how they know it, it's from another source, a reputable source. They won't tell you how they got it, but it's come out a few different times, and I don't want to name names because actually, again, I like having this intelligence. But there's been a few times where they've come back later and said, hey, by the way, this is how I did all this. And I was in that network for like weeks, and I knew everything about them and their mother. And
I wonder if like the FBI and NSA, like if they've got Tor nodes that they've compromised independent of each other, and like they recognize each other's scripts, like, oh, well, that's Terry from over in DC. I know that guy.
Probably.
You know,
I mean,
he's already been here.
I mean,
yeah.
the IRC chats and stuff, they probably know their like sock puppet names.
Yeah, and they already have like analytical tools that also do that a little bit for them. For all we know, they're looking at it and there's like a little side chat thing that analyzes what they're looking at and goes, hey, this is Terry.
Right. Yeah, so I think, from offensive security, what I think about as offensive security is when we see an attack, right, coming into a client network or whatever, our first duty is to protect the client. The way I look at offensive security measures, like the hacking back stuff, is that like you're making a choice to go after somebody.
Well, I know there was an analogy that I read was like the idea that like you had somebody run up and like steal your wallet or your purse or whatever. And like the hacking back or offensive security aspect of that would be chasing down the person that stole your wallet and purse and tackling them and taking it back, right? Like that is an analogy for what hackback would be.
Yeah, no, and I agree. And so or setting bear traps in a mall.
Yeah.
A better analogy would be like the ink and the money bags at a bank.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me that's
Right.
just defense in depth. It's like the bear traps is like part of the first layer of
But
protection.
I will say,
So we are advocating bear traps in malls.
No, so I will say because there's actually been talk of this on the internet a few different times. Setting traps like in your lawn for potential trespassers is illegal.
Yeah, because
If it's going to
trapping.
cause harm,
Yeah.
you cannot booby trap things. Granted, that's in the physical realm.
Hold on.
Whenever we talk about
I got to make a phone call.
whenever we talk about the cybersecurity realm, things are obviously a little bit different. we have traps all the time, and we have honeypots, we have honey files, all these different things that are made to make the attacker make a mistake and show us that they're there well before they're able to do things.
Well,
so, I mean, the analogy doesn't quite work in that sense.
So I think there is you probably have a piece of this. Again, don't want to get into the legal stuff just yet, but I think what you're pointing to is that there are a huge amount of differences between the way that we look at the physical world and the cyber world.
Yes.
And it goes down to, there is a very big difference in the way they handle like physical hackbacks or actually taking action on a perpetrator versus the cyber world. So that
we're going to get into some real life examples of hackbacks and how that worked. But one of the problems that I see with hacking back is attribution, because we see it all the time. We see an IP address. We scan that IP address, right? It comes back to a mom and pop brownie shop in London that's been popped, right? That's what it comes back to. It's probably some sort of node for part of the C2 network on that. If you can't attribute, like, that's not going to be the attackers. All you're doing is hurting,
the mom
and pop shop, right? That doesn't do anyone any good by taking down one node in a C2 network.
Well, and that's part of the frustration with it all, is because really the only way to act in that particular scenario is to inform, in this case, the third-party owner, but also potentially vendors in the case of like vendor chain attacks and stuff like that, of their own compromise and try to help them mitigate it.
Yeah.
Which at that point you're either giving services for free or you're dangling a carrot going, hey, you got hacked, but I'm not going to tell you how. But that's why I personally think that the more effective strategy is to build up the small business and small entity network security, because that's going to go farther about mitigating these attacks than offensive security.
But that's blue team stuff, right?
Yes, but that's also part of the ethical consideration of this.
Exactly. Yeah.
Are you actually being as effective as you think you are by going and taking these attackers down? I can take down an attacker server. Actually, this happened with I think Lockbit. They took down Lockbit, and a few months later, they were like, by the way, we've put up our entire resources in a different place, and you guys can't touch us.
Let's talk about that, because y'all just hit a nerve with me.
Bring it.
Well,
because
it would be the more ethical choice, though, because you're essentially taking something away from the attacker. Now the attacker, you're at least delaying them of weeks to months on having to rebuild that infrastructure.
But here's the problem I have with that, is that what are you going to do? Are you going to call mom and pop and say, dude,
we have?
Well, yeah, but how has that gone over?
Not great.
It has not gone over great.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've got a real life example of that with, I don't remember what town it was, but there was like a small Texas town. Remember, I found that they had an account that had been compromised, and they were sending emails out to people, and I tried to call the city building.
Right.
And that lady who was the IT manager, she's like, "Oh, it's fine. I disabled that account." And I'm like, "Ma'am, it's sending email out right now." And I tried to help her and walk her through stuff, and she just wouldn't. And in those cases, there's not much you can do.
So, and I will contend that's best case scenario.
Yes,
that is best case scenario.
Yeah, we've had others try to bury things in the past.
No, it's not even that. It is
the lack of knowledge.
It's the who are you?
Oh, yeah.
And how do you know this?
And that's fair, because there's plenty of attackers that also do the same thing in order to say, by the way, I can help you by just executing the script on your...
That's, I mean, and that's why we don't, it's always a crapshoot, right? Mm-hmm. Especially when you come to me and you say, look, we've got this intelligence on this city whose, city manager account's been compromised. Mm-hmm. Do you want us to contact the city or not? Mm-hmm. And it's always a toss-up for me, because I never know what the right approach is on that.
Yeah, so what I did in that instance was I called them and I let them know, hey, I'm, my name's Valdis. I'm the director over here at a little cybersecurity company in Waco called Scinary. You can look us up. here's my phone number, my email address, all of this. I basically just lay out my credentials for them ahead of time, and she seemed receptive to it. Now, if they're not receptive to that, there's probably nothing.
But you know what that sounds like, though? It sounds like social engineering.
It does, yeah.
It does.
It's a fine line.
I think with that type of thing, and that is, there are resources out there that exist to report those types of things. But I think there should be better avenues, especially whenever you have things where it is just a singular compromise for like a smaller organization. Typically, these avenues only exist for larger scale attacks. But like IC3, the FBI cybercrime unit, that you can report stuff to them like that. But the problem is that for that, there is not a like for a small one example, like they're not going to do anything. But expanding that type of system so that it does allow where you have an actual representative that does have credentials from a government agency that reaches out to other government agencies to take care of that situation.
had an FBI special agent on the Texas Cybersecurity Task Force based in San Antonio tell me this straight up to my face. Unless it's $25 million in theft, we're not.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, exactly. and I agree with Brazos in this, in that it should be a systematic approach, not a singular entity approach. And that's where I say that the ethics in this can get a little weird. It's the difference between an individualistic retributive approach that gets limited results as opposed to a systematic community approach where we take the entire cybersecurity community and say, hey, if we inform each other better and if we include these small businesses and try to get avenues that are better formulated for getting them the information that they need so that they can better secure themselves. Now, we see the frustrations with this. I mean, patching alone would help you, and most people don't do it.
But that's not what we're talking about.
No,
though.
but it is part of it, because no matter what, within the realm of this retributive, I'm going to attack you because you attacked me approach, you have to look at the alternatives in order to contextualize it. And the fact of the matter is it is an approach that will stop the attack that day. It will not stop the attacks over time.
Yeah, and I doubt that the effectiveness of hackbacking,
new term.
Write
it down.
Hacking.
Backbacks. Yeah. I doubt that there's really, like, it would have a significant effect on the overall threat landscape as from like a defender's perspective. I doubt that you would see a reduction in attacks. In fact, I think you would see more. So think about
escalation is a real thing.
Well, so, and there are some Lockbit's a real world example of this, where it was like you had a government agency actually take down this organization. They come back a number of days later, and then they just troll the hell out of you, right?
Yeah.
And then if you look back even further from that, the LA County school district system, they trolled the attackers saying, and they didn't hack back in this case, but they were trolling them saying we weren't going to pay. I forget the exact language that they used, and that just made them even more angry. So I do think there is a case to be made there that you're really just stirring the pot when you start doing that.
It's like a bully. You have to make it unprofitable, de-incentivize the behavior, and then you have to make them insignificant in the story. Because if you don't do those two...
Oh, that's a whole thing about the names that they give to these stupid attacker groups.
Stop giving them cool names.
Yeah.
Well, I think the ransomware guys, they kind of name themselves.
Yeah,
right?
but the problem is that we call them by those names.
Like Scattered Spider is not called Scattered Spider because Scattered Spider called themselves Scattered Spider. It's called Scattered Spider because one intelligence community or entity decided, hey, they're a bunch of disparate, decentralized people, and they're like spiders because they lie in wait. So I'm going to call them Scattered Spider because it's going to sell my articles whenever I put them out.
Are these the same cybersecurity companies that are putting like Delta Force on the cover of their brochures with like the lasers coming out of their eyes?
Probably.
M16s and stuff.
Because there's this sycophantic fantasy of us being so militarized in our cyber warfare that we can take down the attackers before they ever get to you.
Well, so I think you guys hit on some points. One is escalation, right? You run the risk of like poking the hornet's nest. And I know we're Americans here. And primarily because we're Texans. And I'll be damned if I'm going to be afraid of poking somebody bigger than me. Here's the problem. The Texans, we're Texans, but it's not a good position to be in when you've got an entire nation state after you.
It's not a delusion of grandeur if I can do it.
Right.
So we should always remember the Alamo and the fact that the Alamo fell at the end because the force that it went up against
How
was bigger.
dare you?
Yeah, and there's a consideration there where if let's take Scinary for example, or any smaller, or hell, even some of the bigger cybersecurity companies, you're going up against an entire state government with a black card budget.
Right.
They're going to bury you. Like they already have access to so many things. And we've seen these large state actors get into companies like Microsoft or the government like the Department of Energy. So if you think you can effectively hack back and take down these people's infrastructure to the point that they're not going to come back, no. The other thing too is to only really get these people to stop, you got to put them behind bars. And hack back is not putting people behind bars.
And then you run into international law and the fact that most of them are
they're
in
not going to extradite you.
Yeah, sanctuary countries that they don't have extradition policies, and so you can't even touch them.
Batman has no jurisdiction.
Yeah, you put on that suit and go over to Russia. Have fun.
I am the Red Batman.
Oh, no.
All right. So, yeah. And also there's the collateral damage, right? You could, if you hack back, you could actually do more harm than good. And one of the examples that I give you guys, like when we're working an attack and we find some of these IOCs out there, including IPs, is like, you don't know if that's not already been compromised by the FBI or the NSA, right? You could actually do more harm to an intelligence operation.
Exactly.
Than, you're just fulfilling your need to get retribution.
Well, it's vigilantes. That's all it is. I think another kind of a weird example of like how this type of system does not work is the letter of marquise from back in like the 1800s. So the idea,
what in the hell kind of obscure French reference?
Funnily enough, it does have the French involved.
Yeah.
But the idea of, so what that was is that nations would give letters of marque to pirates, basically giving them the right to pirate as long as you target my other government entity I don't like. So, for example, that the United States used this during like the French proxy war that they had, where they actually gave traders and pirates letters of marque saying that you're free to go and pirate as long as you also target French ships while you do it. And the problem with this is it didn't really have a great effect on anything and ended up causing more harm than it did good. And so this is it. It's a really good example of this exact thing, same thing.
And I find that interesting because what we're seeing in the world today is almost exclusively proxy criminal entities. I mean, not to say there aren't criminal entities that are out there just for criminal purposes, but a lot of these criminal entities are backed by nation states that give them resources, give them intelligence so that they can target the people they want them to target.
They turn a blind eye.
Yeah. Well, one of the two. But I mean, to a degree, that's what the letters of marque was, is, hey, I'm not going to prosecute you as long as you don't attack me. Russia has this policy with most attackers in Russia. As long as the Russian hackers don't attack Russia, they will not be extradited. And it's one of those things that they know Russia will deny it all they want, but in the end,
well, it gives it another big benefit of the letters of marque from the nation perspective is the idea that there's anonymity to it, because you can say, even though the other adversarial nation knows what you're doing, there's not really a good way to prove that you did actually influence the action of that exact person. So, and you can see that with the government, like Russian state actors and Chinese state actors, is that, yes, we can claim it all day long, but the Chinese government can claim it all day long that they have no idea what those people are doing or they didn't incentivize.
And that's probably another perspective that's really hard to fully ascertain, and the reason why it feels so limited in impact is because any criminal entity you manage to take down, if they are a proxy for a national entity, then the national entity just changes who they back. They just find another person, give them the resources, and then all of a sudden, it doesn't matter that you did anything to that criminal entity. You can feel good. You can put them away behind bars, and it's not going to matter if the original backers of them just say, all right, well, that failed. Let's try this one. And then you're right back where you were.
Yeah. Again, I get back to you don't know what you don't know, right, on hacking back. And probably the only entity that may have a lot of those pieces are state, governments, right? Nation states would probably have a lot of those details. I think about Israel probably has a ton of intel on what's going down on the dark web. Probably the United States does as well. Probably all nation states do, right? So
at this point, if you're part of Five Eyes or any of the major investigate or intelligence communities,
so you do run the risk of blowing a very substantial intelligence operation, right, by taking revenge or taking retribution. So Scinary's official approach is don't do it. Right. The second reason why, besides all those bad things that we just stated, it's illegal.
Yeah.
The Computer Fraud and Abuse Act of the United States.
1986.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And not been updated since.
Yeah.
Well, but did y'all know that there was actually a bill in Congress in, I want to say 2009. I can't really remember the exact year, but where offensive security measures would be legalized under certain circumstances.
Did it pass?
It did not. It failed.
Weird.
Yeah. I mean, not only did it fail, it was good, like bombed. Like everybody said, no, this is a terrible idea.
Yeah.
You know,
You know what that is? That's one senator who had a reason for offensive security.
Yeah.
Well, I think so. They call it the Gang of Eight up there. Those, I think this like the Speaker of the House and the minority and majority leaders and all those guys. I think they got together and said, "Hey, our intelligence is way more valuable than some, Ned in his mom's basement trying to hack into, lockbit ransomware stuff."
Yeah, I'm kind of of the opinion if Ned manages to derail a intelligence operation, the government needs to get good.
Dude, look, it's happened before.
It's a skill issue.
Yeah. It's happened before. Yeah. I mean, the number of like undercover ops that have been blown because the cops stopped the guy that was undercover and arrested him.
Yeah.
Well, and so like even on the blue team side, so we scan like SMB in order to see if there's any potential data leakage that may occur because of misconfigured permissions, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
When we do so, we make it known to all of our analysts, you don't touch evidence.
Yep.
And that's because if you touch evidence, you just threw out a court case potentially.
Yeah, right.
And this is aligned with that. Anything you do, if you start messing with things that potentially intersect with a criminal investigation and you start changing shit they don't know about, that is not the attacker doing it, now you're a third party in that investigation and your ass is going to end up in court.
I mean, you could inadvertently criminalize yourself through certain things because like a fingerprint on a phone or something else, you touch that file. What's to say, like you could say that you're
part of the
hacking
organization,
Yeah,
but you could also be a part of the organization,
right? And so next thing you know, you're ending up in court right next to the attackers you were trying to get back at.
Right.
Well, and so I got my papers all over my console here.
Okay.
I'll make sure we're on the right camera.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about some real world examples of hacking back.
Okay.
All right. Bring it.
And I'm gonna go back. Stuxnet.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, so Stuxnet
Before my time. I'm just kidding. I was
wait a
alive.
minute. We were definitely both alive.
Are we
It was
gonna
like
be?
2005.
Are we gonna be
asshole.
I just
talking
wanted
about
that
like?
face. That's all I wanted.
God.
We're gonna be talking about like the Trojan horse.
Right, right.
The fall of Troy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to get into his youth, yeah.
Yeah.
So Stuxnet was the, according to my research, was kind of the first. I say first. It was one of the major offensive cybersecurity operations launched by the Department of Defense against Iranian nuclear power
And
plants.
potentially Israel.
No, it was absolutely Israel that helped develop the worm.
There's been no confirmed tie between the two organizations for that attack.
Joe, they made pagers blow up.
I know, but there's no confirmed.
Right.
Remember, we're not a legal company.
Right. That's right. Allegedly.
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 Is the word you're looking
Reported, reportedly.
According to WikiLeaks.
for.
Oh no. We are not in possession of any data from Julian Assange or WikiLeaks, as far as anybody knows.
Open a cyber company, he said. It'll be fun.
Yeah, it'll be great. It'll be great.
It'll be so easy.
So where was I? Oh yeah, Stuxnet.
Yeah.
So Stuxnet overloaded the centrifuges at the power plant. So basically, the way that worked is it told the embedded systems, the SCADA systems, to spin these centrifuges at Mach 5,
Yep.
and just burn out the bearings or whatever. And then there was something called, let me get my notes here. I don't even know why I take notes with you guys. Operation Glowing Symphony. You ever heard about that?
Okay. No, I'm actually
No,
not familiar with that one.
So Operation Glowing Symphony was U.S. Cyber Command took down ISIS's propaganda infrastructure.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So they hacked into some Facebook accounts and took.
But
those
again, so in both of those, you're talking about government entities doing it.
Oh, I'm getting to the good
All right,
part.
all
I'm
right.
getting to
Rules
the
for
good
me,
part.
but not for you.
All right. So in 2021, we've all dealt with Revel, ransomware group, right? The U.S. and its partners hacked into ransomware group's servers and shut them down. So what do we?
So are you suggesting that partners include? Well, I'm pretty sure those partners would include private entities.
Yeah, I'm going to get really
Private entities
specific.
and other national
So
entities.
I'm guessing you're probably going to get into some point, and I may be jumping ahead here, like Windows getting specifically greenlit from the Department of Justice.
So that's a whole
to go after
nother
Cobalt Strike.
That's a whole nother episode about how in bed is Microsoft with the federal government.
Well, no, but this was counter or offensive or cyber ops kind of activity. The maker, and I cannot remember who. Sorry, one of you, please remind me. The maker of Cobalt Strike.
I honestly,
I have no
I just
idea.
remember their logo as
Okay.
the weird kid.
The maker of Cobalt Strike and Microsoft got together with permission from the Department of Justice to go after rogue deployments of Cobalt Strike, because Cobalt Strike was originally made for offensive security, which was supposed to be...
I have a section on that.
All right. Then I won't jump ahead anymore, but that sounds akin to that whenever we talk about private or partner entities with the government. That's kind of what I think of is they basically didn't have the insight or the resources to the proprietary knowledge, and so they greenlit the private entity to help them.
A couple of episodes back,
Fortra, by the way.
Okay,
They
Fortra.
bought it. It was Strategic Cyber that founded it. in
Yeah,
2012.
Raphael Munch.
Yeah, he founded Strategic Cyber, and then
his name is Raphael Munch.
Something like that.
Raphael Munch created
Remember,
Cobalt
you're on the
Strike in
internet.
2012.
Yeah.
Remember, you're on the internet.
I don't know what that means.
Don't. It's a
We will not mention a man's name in any kind of derogatory sense.
Allegedly.
Munch.
I fixed it. I fixed it. Reportedly.
Allegedly.
Y'all
How's
are a
that?
mess.
Okay, so a couple of episodes back, where were we? A couple of episodes back, we determined that, and this was one of the episodes that was not on camera. I'm beginning to regret all of this at this point, but that Microsoft Windows makes up 70% of all operating systems distributed across the world. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So who has more intelligence, the United States government or Microsoft?
I mean, Microsoft.
Right. So TrickBot takedown. A botnet used for ransomware was crippled by a joint operation between Microsoft and U.S. Cyber Command and others. Mm-hmm. So what's the difference between Microsoft doing it and Scinary doing it?
We don't have the government contract vehicle to do it.
Right. So here's the thing. You stated which one has more intelligence, Microsoft or the government. The answer is Microsoft,
Yeah.
but the answer is also the government through Microsoft because they have contracts in order to
Yes.
get all of that data. And so it doesn't matter which big entity. Like, let's be honest, Google Maps exists because the government helped Google develop the satellite technology for it to
GPS.
have
Yeah.
Google Maps. So the government had access to all the satellite technology that Google developed in order to get Google Maps, which is how we have the surveillance system and net that we now have globally as a government. So anytime you're talking about these big companies and saying, oh, well, they have so much intelligence, so does the government through that company.
Yeah. Well, it's like all the Five Eyes nations.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing is that the governments have a lot of control over the the technology systems within those countries. So, for example, if you look at the VPN stuff, like all these like NordPass and NordVPN and all that, they're basically garbage because the thing is they exist within the United States or one of the other Five Eyes nations, meaning that all of their stuff has to be stored on their servers within those environments because if Five Eyes ever requests it, they have to turn it over.
And there's no encryption on the servers.
Well,
sometimes I won't say always.
We are going to do an episode on VPN security.
Oh, God.
Oh no.
Yeah, and and hopefully we can get Mr. LaForce to cooperate with us and do some testing on like well-known VPN providers.
You should have me on that one too. I argue with my friends about VPNs all the time. It's great.
So, but here's the thing: there's a difference between like thinking something and knowing something.
Right.
Right. And the only way you know something is you got to test it and get the evidence and present it.
But
right.
you don't have the telemetry of what happens on their servers.
Or do we?
Have you been doing hackbacks,
dun,
Richard?
dun, dun.
Scinary does not engage
Tune
in
in
any
next time.
illegal activity.
So,
When Richard goes to jail.
well, one thing I did want to bring up though is the idea that you were talking about, like Microsoft and a contract or some sort of agreement with the government to go after these threat actor organizations, or at least assist in that, or these public-private enterprise contracts where they go after these big ransomware groups. One of the things that I think is interesting and warrants a conversation regarding the overall like ethics of this is how do these what's the like when you were saying what's the difference of Microsoft doing it and Scinary doing it is the incentives of certain companies to take action on those, right? So in that situation, Microsoft either A, being told by the federal government to do this thing, right, without their consent. They're just like, hey, you are going to do this. Otherwise, whatever contract may get cut. Or there's a government contract involved where there probably is money being transferred between the federal government and this very large international conglomerate. When we're looking at Scinary taking action on these things, what is our incentive to do that? And this is where you can get into, well, is it ransomware? Like, are we trying to go and attack these organizations to extort them for money? Because if it's purely just or
maybe getting the data back in an unencrypted form, or maybe getting the decryption key.
Yeah. So then you're looking at somebody paying us to go do that thing through a service, or an individual coming up and saying, hey, I had my data stolen. Can you go and take this data back? Right. Well, what then stops somebody, another private enterprise, coming to us and saying, hey, that other private enterprise down the street, they stole my data. I'll pay you to go get it back.
Right.
There's no government oversight. There's no regulations.
You know where we
regarding
come
it.
then? We become the goons.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying when you're talking about, like when I'm asking, like, what is the incentive? That incentive could become perverse very easily.
Well, but I do think there is another incentive at play, specifically in the Microsoft and Cobalt Strike example. And that is that for Microsoft, there's a little bit of reputational damage in the fact that Cobalt Strike was continually set up on Microsoft servers. And that's the real reason, I think, why they joined that initiative in order to be able to bring those down. It was because they didn't want Microsoft synonymous with Cobalt Strike. And so I think that's maybe a third reasoning why maybe a private entity would get involved with those kinds of government partnerships for taking these things down. But again, I think you're right. I think on a small entity level or like on an individualistic cyber company level, it doesn't make sense other than monetary, some kind of
well, plus
incentive.
I will say, and I'm going to put this blanket statement out there, and it could be completely wrong, but 99% of all shops, even if they've got a really good cybersecurity like team, are not prepared to go on the offense to do those things. The guys that do it, the criminals that do it, their livelihood depends on not being caught, keeping their OPSEC tight, all of that stuff, right? So they're going to have their stuff wired tight for sure. But here, you're going to do offensive security, say you worked for, I don't know, Evil Corp Inc. It's publicly traded, but you're in the cybersecurity division.
It would be.
Yeah.
I just took the Mr. Robot reference.
Yeah. But you work in a very good cybersecurity facility, and the C-suite guys say, I want you to get retribution for us. Okay, great. We can absolutely try to do that, but hey, at 5, I'm going home. Right. So that's not how the criminal enterprise works.
So another analogy that I've always liked for how the offensive, or I should say the attacker versus defender paradigm works within the cybersecurity world has been like a great wall or like a castle wall, right? The defender has to defend all points of that wall. The wall is vast. The wall is long. And you may have trouble manning all points of that wall in order to defend against a potential intrusion.
Again, you're going to cause more issues if you don't know what you're doing than you're solving problems.
Yes, but so in this particular case, in this analogy, whenever the attacker breaches the wall, what you don't want to do is just automatically just start sending your armies through that same wall, and that be the only thing you ever do.
Well, no,
we talk about defense in depth, having multiple walls. We talk about making sure your wall is repaired regularly instead of allowing holes to just develop through erosion and just sit there.
But here's the thing. I mean, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Right. I mean, that's the guys that we come over. That's what we tell all of our clients. It's like, look, we can provide you with best cybersecurity tools and techniques and procedures that the industry has to offer, but that is still a non-zero chance that you're going to get popped, right?
But my point is that whenever the wall is like, instead of a singular wall for each entity, you have a mass wall for like a nation or a community, it becomes more about how each individual person is defending their domain as well as the overarching defense of the domain. And that is another step. So we talk about defense in depth within networks. I think there also needs to be defense in depth outside of networks. And the only way you get that is through community cooperation, through passing of intel between different entities. And I know I keep on going blue team on you.
You keep
but,
going back to blue team, and what I'm
but
trying.
it is the only way to truly get these things down.
I'm not trying to solve that problem.
I know
today.
you're trying to create controversy over ethics of attacking people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. By the way, I did find that law that they tried to pass that would allow limited hacking back. And I shit you not, the acronym is ACDC.
Yo.
Is the Active Cyber Defense Certainty Act. Yeah. And the reason why it didn't pass is because apparently Congress thinks everybody that would be hacking back is a bunch of dumbasses, because it says hitting the wrong target was number one on.
I mean,
well, so if you think about the idea, if you had someone that wants to get into that career, right? Let's say that gets passed. You would have instantly a bunch of people jump into that career field because they think it's cool or think it's fun, right? And if you think about all the attacks that we work or stop, right? And you look at the IOCs that people are using, oftentimes the infrastructure that's sitting at that IP address that was used to log into the VPN or to install that AnyConnect client, it's often just some sort of server farm somewhere that has the underlying company. Yes, they may not be doing their due diligence on their customer or whatever, but the company itself is not the entity that's perpetrating the attack. And we've already mentioned that before. But you would have all these people just targeting that server, not really thinking about the fact that that server has nothing to do with the greater infrastructure of the attacker.
Well, and even beyond that, you have faults within intelligence. So such as like we've had this happen a couple times actually over the last month with several clients of IP location data being different across multiple sources. And so all of a sudden they think that something that was maybe even legitimate came from Estonia, and it's because the IP had changed locations recently, but the IP location database they looked up from didn't change. And now all of a sudden they think that that is an attack, and they attack someone who is perfectly legitimate in what they're doing. And so there is a potential issue with allowing that kind of attack carte blanche and basically giving it the motivation of incentivize through like payment or whatever have you. Oh, well, I can have an offensive security company. Maybe they don't depend as much on the blue team. Now it's all red team. I just want to attack those who attack me so that they don't think of attacking me again. And it becomes this perpetual thing of wrong targets and
collateral damage.
Collateral damage, attacks that don't work.
Screwing
fully.
up intelligence operations. Right. Not knowing what you don't know.
So, I mean, I'll say I kind of agree with him that one probably shouldn't have gotten passed.
So, So, kids, don't hack back. That is Scinary's.
That's what home labs are for.
That's
Get
what
a home lab, test it.
Understand it. And if you're going, I will say this. If you're going to hack back, don't use Metasploit or Kali or anything like that, because that's just not 1337.
You'll do more harm to yourself than
it's a good place to start to learn, but it's not what you should be using in the real world.
Not in the real world. All right, guys, we have come to the end of an hour. That went really, really quickly. So
it's because we were talking about illegal shit.
Yeah,
having too much fun.
Having way too much fun. So next week
and
I have
much beer.
I only had 3.
Look, hey,
3, and then you had a shot of Blanton's before this show even started, sir.
That Blanton's there continually.
Well, I feel perfectly fine.
Well, so I have an excuse. I've been sick all week. So, yeah, that. And I actually blame y'all, because I was fine when we did the podcast last week. I woke up the next morning sick as a dog.
I don't know.
What'd you do Friday night?
Yeah. You had a whole weekend.
So my thing was self-inflicted. None of us were actually sick.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So tune in next week when we talk about something else. I don't really know what that's going to be, but we will figure it out. As always, thanks for listening, and y'all have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
Bye.